The courtroom doors slammed open like thunder. Thorne Castelin walked in wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars. His new woman, Briley Vandermeer, supermodel, influencer, trust fund princess, waited in the hall, her Louboutins clicking on marble like a countdown clock. And there sat Landry, his wife, in her wheelchair, hands folded, eyes down. He didn't even look at her as he signed. "I'm done," he said loud enough for the lawyers to hear. Done being chained to a broken woman who can't even stand on her own 2 feet. The pen scratched across paper. Divorce finalized. Marriage dissolved. 6 years erased. Judge Morrison, old, tired, seen too many of these, shook his head but said nothing. Thorne grabbed his briefcase, walked past Landry like she was furniture, paused at the door just long enough to twist the knife one more time. Good luck surviving without me. Then he left the mother of his child, left a woman who'd built him up when he had nothing, left her sitting there in a wheelchair, drowning in shame, while his new life waited in designer heels outside. Have you ever watched someone you loved become someone you don't recognize? Have you ever been thrown away the moment you stopped being useful? Keep watching, because what this man didn't know was that the woman he just destroyed, she was already richer than everyone in that building combined, and she was about to make him regret every single word. But before we dive in, hit that like button right now if you've ever wanted karma to hit someone hard. And subscribe because this story gets absolutely wild. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever been underestimated by someone who regretted it? Now let's rewind 2 years to the night everything changed. Beverly Hills, California. 2 years earlier, Landry Castelin had been driving home from a charity gala. She'd worn the emerald dress Thorne loved, smiled for cameras, played the perfect wife while her husband networked with tech billionaires and venture capitalists who'd made their first millions before 30. Thorne was building something. Titan Edge Capital, his investment firm. And Landry? She was a secret weapon. The woman who remembered names, birthdays, whose kids played soccer and whose mothers had cancer. She built relationships while Thorne closed deals. They were a team, or so she thought. The call came at 9:47 p.m. Their son, little Beckett, only 4 years old, had spiked a fever of 104. The nanny was panicking. "I'm coming," Landry had said, already grabbing her keys. 20 minutes. Thorne had barely looked up from his conversation with Preston Halifax, a billionaire who was this close to investing. "Handle it," he'd said. "I'm busy." She'd driven fast. Too fast. Sunset Boulevard curves like a snake. And the Tesla, Thorne's gift, his brand, his image, had taken the turn at 50 when she should have done 30. The SUV came out of nowhere. Impact. Spinning. Glass exploding. Metal screaming. Her body whipping forward, and then crack. The sound of her spine breaking was quieter than she expected. Almost gentle, like a twig snapping under snow. She woke up 3 days later in Cedars-Sinai. Machines beeping. White walls. Thorne sitting in the corner, scrolling through his phone. "You're awake," he said. Not relief. Statement of fact. "Beckett." "He's fine. Fever broke. You overreacted." Her body felt strange. Heavy. Wrong. She tried to move her legs. Nothing. Dr. Una Prescott entered, young, brilliant, the kind of surgeon who could work miracles but couldn't perform them. Her face said everything before her mouth did. "The impact fractured your T11 and T12 vertebrae. We've stabilized you, but Landry, the damage to your spinal cord is severe. You're paraplegic, paralyzed from the waist down." The word hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Thorne stood. "Permanently? We'll do everything we can, but realistically." So she's stuck like this. Dr. Prescott's jaw tightened. "Your wife just survived a major trauma. Let's focus on. I need to make some calls." Thorne was already at the door. "Keep me updated." He left. Landry stared at the ceiling, tears sliding down her temples into her hair. And she realized something that would take months to fully understand. The man she married had just started calculating her value. And in his math, she'd become a negative number. The first month after the accident, Thorne played devoted husband on social media. Photos of Landry in the hospital, him holding her hand, captions about fighting together, and stronger than ever with prayer hands emojis and heart symbols. But at home, in their Bel Air mansion, he moved into the guest wing. "You need space for your equipment," he said. Medical bed, wheelchair, parallel bars for physical therapy she couldn't afford because, surprise, Thorne's company insurance had a clause about pre-existing conditions that somehow applied retroactively. He stopped touching her, stopped looking at her, started taking calls in other rooms, voice low, laughing at things that weren't funny enough to laugh at alone. Landry tried everything. She learned to transfer from bed to chair by herself, master her wheelchair like it was an Olympic sport, did physical therapy until her arms burned and her therapist, kind, patient Simone, begged her to rest. Thorne, she'd said one morning over coffee he didn't drink because he was doing intermittent fasting now. "I got accepted into that virtual program. I can work from home, consulting for nonprofits, fundraising strategy. We talked about me doing this before the accident." "That's nice." Eyes on his phone. Texting. Always texting. "It pays well. I could contribute." "Landry." He finally looked up. "You can barely get yourself dressed. How are you going to work?" The words landed like slaps. "I'm still me," she whispered. "No, you're not." He stood, grabbed his briefcase. "The woman I married had a life, had energy, could keep up. You're this now." Gestured vaguely at her wheelchair. "And I'm supposed to what? Pretend I'm okay with it?" "In sickness and in health." Was before we knew sick meant forever. He walked out. The door closing behind him sounded like a coffin lid. Landry discovered Briley the way every betrayed wife does in the digital age, accidentally and completely. Beckett had wanted to FaceTime Daddy. Landry used Thorne's iPad. He left it on the kitchen counter, unlocked. A notification popped up. "Briley, last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you tonight at the Peninsula. Room 447. Wear that thing I like smirking face." The message was timestamped 6:43 a.m. Today, Landry's hands went numb. She opened the messages, scrolled. 6 months of conversations. Photos. Videos she closed immediately because some things, once seen, burn into your brain forever. The affair had started 3 weeks after her accident. While she was in the hospital learning to use a catheter, he was at the Peninsula Hotel with a 26-year-old model whose biggest accomplishment was 4.7 million Instagram followers and a teeth-whitening sponsorship. Landry didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw the iPad. She took screenshots, every message, every photo, sent them to her own email, then deleted the evidence that she'd seen anything. When Thorne came home that night, late, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, she said nothing. "You're quiet," he said, almost suspicious. "Tired. Long day with Beckett." He nodded, relieved probably, that she was still playing the role of oblivious wife. But Landry wasn't oblivious anymore. She was calculating, and in the mathematics of betrayal, she was about to become a master. Thorne filed 3 months later. Didn't even tell her himself. She received the papers via courier, FedEx, like a package from Amazon. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Grounds: irreconcilable differences. His lawyer, Camden Fisk, known for destroying opponents in family court, had written a masterpiece of cruelty. The petition claimed Landry was unable to fulfill marital duties. Her disability created undue burden on the family structure. Thorne was primary caregiver and financial provider. Beckett would be better served in his father's stable, active household. She read it 3 times, each word a small death. Thorne came home that evening, found her at the kitchen table, papers spread out like evidence at a crime scene. "You couldn't even tell me to my face." He had the audacity to look inconvenienced. "I knew you'd be dramatic." "Dramatic? You're taking my son. He needs a parent who can actually parent. You can barely get yourself to the bathroom. Landry, how are you going to chase a 4-year-old? I'm still his mother." You're a liability. He grabbed a water bottle from the fridge, drank, casual, like they were discussing weather. Briley and I are getting married. She's already amazing with Beckett. He calls her Bri. It's cute. The room tilted. You've introduced our son to your mistress? She's not. We're serious, okay? She makes me happy. She's alive. She wants to travel, go hiking, be spontaneous. I can still do things. In a wheelchair, everything is about ramps and accommodations, and is there an accessible bathroom? I'm 34 years old, and I feel 60. Then leave, Landry said, voice steady as stone. But don't you dare take Beckett. Thorne's smile was cruel. Already done. My lawyers are better than anything you can afford. And in case you're thinking about fighting, the house is mine. The accounts are mine. The car is mine. You signed a post-nup 5 years ago, remember? When we refinanced. She remembered. She'd signed without reading, trusting him. You have 30 days to move out, Thorne said. I'm being generous. He left her, sitting there, walked upstairs to pack. And Landry sat in her wheelchair in the kitchen of the house she'd decorated, the home she'd built, and realized she'd married a man who'd only loved her when she was useful. The divorce hearing was carnage. Camden Fisk, Thorne's lawyer, was 6'3" of Ivy League arrogance in a Tom Ford suit. He painted Landry as dependent, unstable, incapable. Mrs. Castelin, can you demonstrate how you'd evacuate Beckett in case of fire? There are protocols, emergency services. So you'd rely on strangers to save your son? Her lawyer, Griffin Morris, kind but outmatched, objected weakly. Overruled. Can you drive Beckett to school? I'm working on getting a modified vehicle. So currently no? Not yet, but can you physically restrain Beckett if he's having a tantrum? The questions kept coming, each one designed to humiliate, to prove she was less. Thorne testified to, said she'd become obsessed with her condition, said Beckett needed normalcy, said Briley was already a better mother figure because she could do things like play at the park and go swimming. He never once looked at Landry while he destroyed her. Judge Morrison, that same tired judge in the opening, listened to everything, then ruled. Custody. Thorne, primary. Landry, supervised visits every other weekend. Assets. House of Thorne. Cars to Thorne. Savings split 80-20 in his favor because he was the primary earner. Landry walked, rolled, away with $47,000, a storage unit full of belongings and a shattered heart. Thorne walked away with everything, including Briley, who waited outside in his Bentley, scrolling through Instagram, not even pretending to care about the life she'd helped destroy. Landry's new place was in Culver City. Ground floor, 1 bedroom. Beckett's toys stacked in a corner for the visit she was allowed. Supervised by a social worker named Paula, who watched her like she might suddenly become dangerous. She'd been there 5 days when the mail came. Junk, bills, credit card offers, and 1 envelope, cream-colored, heavy paper, international postage. Return address, Kessler and Associates, Zurich, Switzerland. Landry almost threw it away. Scam, obviously. But something about the paper, the weight, the quality, made her open it. Inside, a typed letter on letterhead so elegant it looked like art. Dear Ms. Landry Kincaid Castelin, it is with profound sorrow that we inform you of the passing of your maternal grandmother, Dame Portia Kincaid, on December 2nd. As per her last will and testament, you are the sole beneficiary of Kincaid Global Trust. The trust, established in 1959, holds controlling shares in Kincaid International, a private conglomerate with ventures in technology, real estate, renewable energy, aerospace, and humanitarian foundations across 6 continents. Per Dame Kincaid's explicit instructions, full disclosure and transfer of assets occurs on your 35th birthday, which our records show occurred last week, December 7th. The current valuation of your inheritance is approximately 1.34 trillion US dollars. We require your presence in Zurich to finalize the transfer. All arrangements will be provided. Our deepest sympathies for your loss. Respectfully, Johann Kessler, Senior Counsel. Landry read it 5 times. Then she started laughing. A broken, hysterical sound that echoed in her empty apartment. Trillion, with A-T. This was a joke. Had to be. Some elaborate scam, or maybe Thorne's final insult. Hire someone to mock her with fake wealth. But then she saw the photograph. Black and white. 1962 written on the back. A woman, sharp-jawed, fierce-eyed, standing in front of a factory. Workers behind her. She wore a simple dress and held a clipboard. She looked exactly like Landry. The back of the photo had a note in faded ink. Kincaid Manufacturing, Detroit. First day as majority shareholder. They said a woman couldn't run a factory. I ran 12. PK, Landry's grandmother. The woman her mother never spoke about. The woman who'd died poor in Europe somewhere when Landry was 9. Her mother, gone now, breast cancer, for years ago, had always avoided questions about her own mother. Said Portia was difficult and they'd had a falling out. Landry had never met her grandmother. Never even knew she was alive until this letter said she was dead. But looking at that photograph, at the face that mirrored her own, something clicked. She picked up her phone, called the number on the letter. A man answered immediately. Accent precise. Kessler and Associates. Mr. Kessler speaking. This is Landry Castelin. I received. Ms. Kincaid, we've been expecting your call. My condolences for your loss and for the delay in reaching you. Your grandmother was most specific about the timing. Is this real? A pause. Ms. Kincaid, I've managed your grandmother's affairs for 32 years. Every word in that letter is factual. The Kincaid empire is very real. And as of your 35th birthday, it belongs entirely to you. Her apartment felt too small suddenly. Too big. Both at once. Why me? I never knew her. She knew you. She followed your life quite closely. Your education. Your marriage. Your accident. Everything. Landry's throat closed. She watched me lose everything and never. The trust terms were absolute. No contact before your 35th birthday. She believed her words. That strength is built in fire, not handed on silver platters. Let my granddaughter become who she needs to be before she inherits what I built. Tears streamed down Landry's face. When can I come? We have a jet waiting at Van Nuys Airport. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Kincaid. Landry looked around her apartment, at the divorce papers on the counter, at the photo of Beckett that Thorne had posted yesterday, the boy on Briley's lap at Disneyland, both adults grinning for cameras. She looked at her wheelchair, at her broken body, at the life that had tried to destroy her. Tomorrow, she said. I'll come tomorrow. Excellent. Oh, and Ms. Kincaid. Yes. Your grandmother left you a personal letter. I think you'll want to read it privately. The private jet was absurd. All cream leather and mahogany. A medical team on standby. Doctor, nurse, physical therapist. Everything accessible. But it was the letter that shattered her. Johann handed it to her once they were airborne. Leather portfolio. Inside, pages written in fountain pen. The handwriting elegant. Strong. No tremor despite being written by a 94-year-old woman weeks before her death. My dearest Landry, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. 94 is too long anyway. Heaven better have decent coffee. You don't know me. Your mother made sure of that. She never forgave me for choosing empire over being a proper mother. She wanted me home baking cookies. I was busy building factories. We both made our choices. I regret mine sometimes. But I watched you, child. I have people for that. I watched you grow into someone remarkable, kind, smart. Then I watched you marry that boy, Thorne Castelin. I had him investigated. Of course. Mediocre. Ambitious. The kind of man who marries up and calls it love. I almost intervened. Almost. Then your accident happened. I wanted to send the best doctors, the best equipment, the best everything. Johann had to physically stop me. The trust terms, my own rules, ironically, forbade interference before your 35th birthday. So I watched your husband abandon you, take your son, Take your home. I watched him destroy you in that courtroom. And I wanted to buy that judge, that lawyer, that coward you married, and teach them what happens when you cross a Kincaid woman. But I didn't, because you needed to learn something I learned at 23 when my first husband left me with nothing. The world is cruel to women who fall, but the women who rise were unstoppable. The money is yours now. $1.34 trillion. Kincaid International. I built it from one factory floor in Detroit in 1959 when banks wouldn't give women business loans. Built it through recessions, wars, sexist fools who thought I'd fail. Use it, Landry. All of it, not to be comfortable, to be dangerous. Rebuild yourself. Destroy anyone who bet on your destruction. Show your son what a mother looks like when she's backed by steel and stubborn Kincaid blood. And that boy who left you? Don't waste time on revenge. Build something so magnificent that he becomes dust, insignificant, forgotten. Welcome to the family business. Darling, you've survived the worst. Now go become legendary. With the love I should have shown sooner. Portia. Landry read it twice, then pressed it to her chest and cried for the grandmother she'd never known who'd known her better than anyone. When Johann returned with tea, her tears were gone. Tell me everything, she said. Every company, every asset, every investment, and then tell me how to use it. His smile was sharp. Your grandmother said you'd say exactly that. Zurich was cold. January in Switzerland meant snow on the Alps and business, conducted in buildings older than America. But Landry barely noticed the scenery. She spent 6 weeks in Switzerland, learning, planning, transforming. Kincaid International was more than money. It was power. The empire included tech holdings in AI, cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, real estate in every major city worldwide. Green energy companies supplying power to 12 countries, aerospace contracts with NASA and private space ventures, media investments in cable networks, streaming services, publishing houses, pharmaceutical research saving lives and making billions. And it was all hers. But first, her body. Johann had arranged meetings with the world's top specialists. Dr. Henrik Lindström from Stockholm, Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Kyoto, Dr. Zara Okonkwo from Johannesburg. They reviewed her case, examined every scan. Then Dr. Lindström, 60, kind eyes, hands that had worked miracles, spoke. The damage is severe, but not impossible. Experimental stem cell therapy combined with nerve stimulation and intensive rehabilitation. We might restore partial function. Might. Medicine is possibility, not guarantee. Then I want every possibility. The treatments were brutal. Electrodes attached to her spine. Currents shocking dead nerves. Physical therapy 8 hours daily. Pain that made her scream into towels. But Landry didn't quit, because Portia's letter was framed in her Swiss hotel room. Build something so magnificent that he becomes dust. 3 months after starting treatment, her toes moved. For months in, her ankles flexed. 6 months later, she stood, holding parallel bars, legs shaking, Dr. Lindström and his team holding their breath. She took one step, then collapsed, then whispered, again. 10 months after Zurich, Landry returned to Los Angeles, but not as a broken woman who'd left, as someone else entirely. Her new home, a smart house in Pacific Palisades, $12 million. Ocean views, every inch designed for accessibility, but so elegantly you'd never know. The ramps looked like architectural features. The modified kitchen looked like something from a design magazine, because it was. Landry had hired the world's best architects. Her specifications, her vision. She could walk now, with a cane for longer distances, but she could walk. The treatments had worked. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough to stand. Enough to prove every doctor who called it impossible wrong. But here's the thing. Nobody in America knew. Landry had made Johann and his team sign ironclad NDAs. No press releases. No announcements. No media coverage of the Kincaid heir returning to reclaim her empire. She wanted to move in shadows, study her targets, build her strategy, because revenge isn't sprint, it's architecture. Her first hire, Sutton Reeves, 47, former federal prosecutor turned private attorney. She destroyed corporations and made senators weep. She wore all black and smiled like a wolf. You want justice or destruction? Sutton asked during their first meeting in Landry's home office. Is there a difference? Justice is legal and clean. Destruction is personal and permanent. I can give you both, but you need to tell me which one feeds your soul. Everything, Landry said. I want him to lose everything he took from me, and I want him to know exactly who took it back. Sutton's smile widened. Music to my ears. Second hire, Kyler Voss, 32, tech genius, former Silicon Valley wunderkind who'd gotten bored making billionaires richer and started freelancing for people with interesting problems. Your ex-husband? Kyler said, fingers flying across 4 keyboards in Landry's tech room, is embarrassingly sloppy digitally. His passwords are variations of his birthday and your anniversary, which is both pathetic and telling. I've got access to everything. Bank accounts, emails, business files, even his Spotify. His Spotify? He's been listening to a lot of angry breakup songs. 27 hours of them last month. Either he's really into the genre or things with the supermodel aren't as perfect as Instagram suggests. Landry filed that information away like ammunition. Third hire, Imani Cross, 41, private investigator, former CIA. If Kyler found digital secrets, Imani found physical ones. She could tail targets through crowds, befriend strangers and extract confessions, disappear or appear as needed. Briley Vandermeer. Imani reported 3 weeks into surveillance. Real name, Briley Vanderberg. Changed it to sound more expensive. She's from Akron, Ohio. Father's not a trust fund investor. He's a car salesman with 2 bankruptcies and a gambling problem. Everything about her is performance art. And Thorne knows. Thorne thinks he married up. She's been selling him a fantasy since day one. Meanwhile, she's got $340,000 in credit card debt across 17 cards. Her designer bags? Rented or knockoffs. Her rich friends? Paid actors for photo shoots. Her followers? 70% bots. Perfect. Fourth hire, Dr. Ellis Romero, 39, physical therapist. The man who'd been helping Landry regain mobility. Brilliant. Patient. Kind in ways that felt like sunlight after years of darkness. Their relationship had started professionally, then became friendship, then something more. You're staring, Landry said one evening after a particularly brutal therapy session. You're remarkable. I'm really not. You went from a wheelchair to walking in under a year. You're rebuilding an empire most people don't even know exists. You're raising a son with grace despite everything. You're extraordinary. Keep talking like that, and I might start believing you. He reached across the parallel bars. Took her hand. Good. You should. 6 months into knowing each other, they were serious. Ellis had met Beckett during one of Landry's supervised visits. The boy had loved him immediately. Ellis taught him about bones and muscles, made anatomy fun, never tried to replace Thorne but filled spaces Thorne had left empty. Landry had learned something crucial. You don't heal by finding someone to fix you. You heal by becoming whole on your own. And then, if you're lucky, you find someone who celebrates that wholeness. Thorne's company, Titan Edge Capital, had been thriving, at least on the surface. He'd been making deals, big ones, contracts with corporate clients who seemed to appear out of nowhere with deep pockets and interesting opportunities. What Thorne didn't know, every single one of those contracts came from Kincaid International subsidiaries. Landry had been feeding him business for 8 months, small at first, then larger, letting him think he was finally making it, letting his ego inflate like a balloon. The contracts were legitimate, real work, real money. She wasn't setting him up for failure through fraud. She was setting him up for dependency. Titan Edge revenue had doubled. Thorne hired more staff, leased a bigger office in Century City, bought a new Bentley, Briley posted photos constantly, their empire, their success, their blessed life. Then Landry cut the oxygen. Every contract canceled. Breach clauses activated where applicable. New business opportunities mysteriously evaporated. Corporate clients who'd been responsive went silent. In 3 weeks, Titan Edge went from thriving to drowning. Thorne's first response was confusion. He made calls, sent emails, got voicemails and auto-responses. His bookkeeper, frazzled, overwhelmed, showed him the numbers. Revenue down 73%. Overhead still climbing. Payroll in 2 weeks with nothing to cover it. What the hell happened? Thorne demanded in a staff meeting Imani had bugged. His OO, Garrett, loyal, competent, looked exhausted. I don't know. It's like every major client coordinated to drop us simultaneously. The timing is too perfect to be coincidence. Then find out who's behind it. I've tried. These corporations are labyrinths. Shell companies within holding groups within international conglomerates. I can't trace the decision makers. Because the decision maker was sitting in Pacific Palisades, drinking tea, watching her ex-husband panic through surveillance footage, feeling absolutely nothing. The biggest contract Thorne had landed, the one that was supposed to save him, was a renovation of Mercy Heights Medical Center in downtown LA, a $47 million project, his largest ever. The contract had come through 6 months ago from a foundation Thorne had never heard of, the Kincaid Humanitarian Foundation. He'd been so excited about the money, he hadn't researched the client. Mistake, because the foundation was Landry's. Well, Portia's originally, but now Landry's. And Kyler had found something interesting in Titan Edge's internal files. He's cutting corners, Kyler said, showing Landry the documents on our office screens. Massively. The ventilation systems? Supposed to be medical grade with antimicrobial filtration. He's using standard commercial grade. 40% cheaper, completely inadequate for a hospital. The electrical work? He's skipping redundancy systems required for life support equipment. The fire suppression? Substandard. Landry's blood went cold. People could die. Yeah, and one of the floors being renovated? The pediatric ICU. The ward where sick children fought for their lives. Where Beckett might end up if, God forbid, anything ever happened. Thorne was risking children's lives to pad his profit margins. Give me everything, Landry said, her voice ice. Every document, every email, every text where he or his contractors discuss cutting corners. And get me the city inspector's schedule. Sutton filed a complaint through official channels, anonymous but airtight. Imani ensured photos of the substandard work leaked to the Los Angeles Times. The city building inspector, who'd been mysteriously slow to investigate, suddenly had the mayor's office breathing down his neck after a call from a city councilwoman who owed the Kincaid Foundation a very large favor. The inspection happened on a Thursday. By Friday, the project was shut down. Red tags everywhere. Criminal investigation open for fraudulent contracting and endangering public safety. By Saturday, Thorne's face was all over the news. Investment exec accused of hospital safety violations. Children's ward at risk. The public outrage was thermonuclear. Briley started changing 3 months into Titan Edge collapse. The sweetness evaporated. The Instagram-perfect girlfriend became something else. You said you were successful, she hissed at Thorne one night. Imani had planted audio devices in their Calabasas rental. They'd lost a house. You said you had money. I did. This is temporary. Temporary? Your company is being investigated for almost killing children. Do you know what this does to MY brand? I have sponsors. Thorne had sponsors. 3 dropped me this week because I'm associated with you. Briley, please. I gave up a relationship with Barrett for you. Barrett Finch. He's producing albums for actual celebrities, and you're what? A washed-up con artist who can't even build a hospital properly. That's not fair. What's not fair is you lying to me. You said your ex-wife was some pathetic disabled woman with nothing. You made it sound like you were the victim. Now I find out she's the one who left you. Thorne froze. What are you talking about? I talk to people. Your old friends. They said SHE file for divorce after your affair. That you're the one who cheated and destroyed your marriage. Lies. Landry had planted those lies through Imani's network. Easy when you know the right people. Rewriting history, one whisper at a time. No, I filed. Whatever. I don't even care anymore. She gestured at their modest rental, at Thorne in sweatpants instead of designer suits, at the life falling apart around them. This isn't what I signed up for. She started going out, coming home late, then not at all some nights. Thorne tried calling, texting. She'd leave him on read for hours, days. Then came the photos, posted on a gossip site. Briley at a yacht party in Marina del Rey, with Barrett Finch, 38, wealthy, successful, everything Thorne used to pretend to be. Barrett's arm around her, her head on his shoulder, caption on her Instagram, asterisk, sometimes the universe corrects your path, asterisk. No mention of Thorne, no explanation, just gone. Thorne called her, voicemail, texted, nothing, drove to her place, the apartment he'd been paying for. Locks changed, doorman had instructions. Ms. Vandermeer's not receiving visitors. He'd been erased, abandoned, made irrelevant, exactly like he'd done to Landry. The financial collapse was systematic. Sutton's team had been working in the background for months, buying up Thorne's debts, quietly, through shell companies and investment groups that couldn't be traced back to Kincaid International. Every loan Titan Edge had, Kincaid owned now. Every line of credit, Kincaid controlled. Every business relationship, Kincaid influenced. When Sutton activated the trap, it was surgical. All debts called simultaneously. All credit lines frozen. All business accounts locked pending irregularity investigations. Titan Edge Capital collapsed in 48 hours. Bankruptcy filed. Assets seized. Staff laid off. Office closed. Thorne lost everything. The Bentley repossessed. The Calabasas rental evicted. His reputation destroyed. He moved back to his parents' house in Pasadena. 57 years old. His mother answered the door when creditors came calling, saying her son was going through a difficult time. Beckett, now 6, hadn't seen his father in 2 months. Thorne kept canceling supervised visits. Too ashamed, too broken. The boy would ask Landry, "Why doesn't Daddy come anymore?" And Landry would hold him and say, "Sometimes grown-ups have to figure things out, baby. But I'm here. Always." That part hurt, not for Thorne's sake, but for Beckett's. But children are resilient, especially when they have one parent who's solid ground. Thorne figured out 9 months after everything fell apart. He was working at a Quick Mart in Pasadena, graveyard shift, stocking shelves, wearing a polo with his name stitched on it, when he saw the television in the break room. CNN, business news. Breaking. Kincaid International announces new CEO. Landry Kincaid to lead trillion-dollar empire in radical accessibility initiative. The screen showed a press conference. Century City. Massive venue. And there was Landry, standing at a podium, using a cane, yes, but standing, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than his parents' mortgage. Hair elegant, posture confident, radiating authority. The room was full of journalists, corporate executives, city officials. She was speaking. "My grandmother, Dame Portia Kincaid, built this empire from a single factory floor when banks wouldn't loan to women. She taught me that falling doesn't define you. Rising does. I fell hard, lost my ability to walk, lost my marriage, lost almost everything. Thorne's knees went weak. But I'm here now. And Kincaid International is launching a $5 billion initiative to revolutionize disability accessibility worldwide. We're funding research for spinal injury treatments, building universal design into every project we touch, creating opportunities for people society has written off." A reporter asked, "There are rumors you went through a difficult divorce during your recovery." And he commented. Landry's smile was gracious but cold. "I could say that sometimes people show you who they really are when you need them most. I'm grateful for that clarity. It freed me to become who I was always meant to be." The camera panned the audience. Gasps. Whispers. Another reporter. And the estimated value of your inheritance? $1.34 trillion, which sounds overwhelming until you realize it's just a tool. The question isn't how much you have. It's what you build with it. Thorne stood in that break room, wearing a polyester uniform, watching his ex-wife command a room of the world's most powerful people. The math hit him like a freight train. The contracts that dried up, the hospital investigation, the debts being called, Briley's sudden exit, the systematic destruction of everything he'd built. Landry had done this. All of it. The woman he'd called broken had orchestrated his complete annihilation, and he'd never seen it coming. Thorne showed up at Kincaid International Headquarters in Century City 2 days later. The building was glass and steel, 47 stories, Landry's name on the directory. He demanded to see her. Security, polite but immovable, said he wasn't on any visitor list. Tell her it's Thorne Castelin. Tell her I know what she did. The guard made a call. Waited. Then, Miss Kincaid will see you. 47th floor. The elevator ride felt like ascending to judgment. Each floor a reminder of how far he'd fallen and how high she'd risen. The executive suite was breathtaking. Art that belonged in museums. Views of Los Angeles spreading out like a kingdom below. And Landry, behind a desk of polished walnut, wearing confidence like armor. Thorne, this is unexpected. You ruined me. His voice shook. Everything that happened, the contracts, the investigation, the debts, Briley, that was you. Was it? Her face was unreadable. Don't play games. I know. The timing, the precision. It has your fingerprints all over it. She stood, slowly, walked to the window with her cane, Los Angeles glittering 47 stories below. You destroyed me when I was at my lowest, she said quietly. Took my son, my home, my dignity. Called me broken in a courtroom while your mistress waited outside. Told a judge I was unfit to be a mother because I couldn't walk. I made mistakes. You made choices, calculated ones. You chose to cheat while I was in the hospital learning to use a catheter. You chose to file for divorce instead of honoring your vows. You chose to humiliate me publicly while rebuilding your life with someone else. So you destroyed my entire life? That's your revenge? No, Thorne. She turned. Her eyes were ice. I rebuilt mine. Your life destroyed itself. I just stopped propping it up. The contracts were yours to manage. You took them for granted. Cut corners. Endangered children to increase profit margins. I didn't make you do that. Your greed did. The hospital investigation was legally necessary. Should I have let a faulty building open? Let children die to protect your reputation? The debts are legitimate. You borrowed money. I bought those debts legally. That's business. Briley left you the same way she found you. Cheating on someone vulnerable. Poetic, really. Thorne collapsed into a chair. What do you want from me? Nothing. The word was final. Absolute. That's what you never understood. I don't need anything from you. Not apologies. Not acknowledgement. Not closure. You're irrelevant to my life now. Beckett is thriving. Excellent school. Mother who adores him. Opportunities you could never provide. What he doesn't have is a father who shows up. The words hit like bullets. I want to see him. Then see him. I've never blocked your custody. You cancel visits. You stop calling. You disappear because facing your son was harder than wallowing in self-pity. How do I fix this? Landry returned to her desk. Pressed a button. Security will escort you out. Landry, please. You asked what I want. I want nothing from you. But Beckett needs a father who acts like one. Not for my benefit. For his. If you want to fix anything, start there. Everything else is your burden to carry. Security appeared. Goodbye, Thorne. 3 weeks later, Sutton delivered an envelope to Thorne's parents' house. Inside, a letter on Kincaid International letterhead. Position offer. Facilities manager, Mercy Heights Medical Center. Salary. $58,000 per year plus benefits. Responsibilities. oversee maintenance and safety compliance of hospital facilities, ensure all construction and renovation projects meet or exceed medical safety standards, report directly to Hospital Operations Director. Special conditions. Employee must complete 300 hours of community education regarding disability accessibility, medical safety standards, and ethical construction practices. Employee will participate in the rebuild of the pediatric ICU as part of a restorative justice program. Under supervision. This position is offered in lieu of criminal prosecution. Acceptance constitutes acknowledgement of previous wrongdoing and commitment to making amends. At the bottom, handwritten in Landry's script. This isn't charity. It's a chance to rebuild your character, not just your bank account. The work is honest. The purpose is real. Whether you become someone worth knowing is entirely up to you. Okay. Thorne stared at the letter for 2 hours. It was humiliating. A facilities manager. Blue-collar work. Nothing like the executive life he'd built. But it was also honest. Real. Important. And it was more than he deserved. He called the number listed. Accepted the position. Started the following Monday. Hard hat. Work boots. Actual labor. Checking HVAC systems and electrical panels. Learning building codes he should have known before. It wasn't his empire. Wasn't the life he'd imagined. But maybe it was a foundation to build something real. Beckett was almost 7 now. Perceptive. Thoughtful. Old enough to understand more than adults realized. He sat with Landry one evening in their Pacific Palisades home. Hot chocolate and homework. The Pacific Ocean dark and vast beyond the windows. Mom. Yes, sweetheart. Why doesn't Daddy live with us? The question she'd known was coming. She chose her words carefully. Your dad and I loved each other once. Very much. But sometimes people change. Sometimes they stop being good for each other. That doesn't mean we don't both love you. But he doesn't visit much. I know. That's something he has to work on. Not you. You didn't do anything wrong. Beckett was quiet, thinking. Then, you use your cane less now. I do. I've been working really hard. Daddy left when you couldn't walk. Did he leave because you were hurt? Children, they see everything. Landry pulled him close. Sort of. But that's about who he was, not about what I deserved or what you deserved. Some people stay when things get hard. Some people run. The ones who stay, those are your real family. You stayed. Even when you were hurt bad, you stayed with me. Always, Beckett. Always. Ellis stays too. She smiled. He does. I like Ellis. He makes you laugh. And he taught me about bones. He's pretty great, isn't he? Yeah. Beckett hugged her tight. I think you're like a superhero. You got hurt really bad, and you still got back up. That's what superheroes do. Landry's eyes burned with tears she wouldn't let fall. You know what? You're my superhero. You stayed brave and kind through everything. That's harder than anything I did. 6 months after Thorne started at Mercy Heights, Landry took Beckett to Palisades Park. It was a Saturday. Sunny. Perfect California. Whether that felt like a postcard. Ellis was with them. He and Landry had been together over a year now. Serious. Committed. Beckett adored him. Ellis had taught the boy about stars and muscles, and how to throw a proper baseball. They were laughing about something, Beckett's terrible knock-knock joke, when Landry saw him. Thorne, walking alone. He looked different. Thinner. Older. Wearing jeans and a windbreaker instead of designer everything. He looked humbled. Changed. He saw them at the same moment. His face went through several emotions. Shock, pain, something that might have been regret. Beckett noticed. Daddy. The boy ran to him. Thorne caught him, hugging tight, and Landry saw genuine emotion crack his face. Hey, buddy. Wow, you got big. I'm almost 7. Did you know that some dinosaurs had hollow bones like birds? Ellis told me. Thorne looked at Ellis. Ellis extended his hand. Good to meet you. Beckett talks about you. Good things, I hope. Honest things. He loves you. The words were sincere. No threat. Ellis was secure. He had Landry's heart, and he knew it. I should let you get back to your day. Thorne said. Daddy, can you come to my birthday? Mom's renting the whole science center. Thorne looked at Landry. She nodded. You're welcome, if you want. I want to. Thank you. Beckett chattered for another minute about dinosaurs and planets and all the beautiful chaos of childhood. Then they said goodbye. Landry watched Thorne walk away, alone, diminished, but maybe becoming someone better. You okay? Ellis asked softly. Yeah, I am. That was kind. Inviting him. It's not for him. It's for Beckett. Every kid deserves a father who tries. You're remarkable, you know that? She smiled. You might have mentioned it once or twice. Beckett's 7th birthday was extraordinary. Landry had rented the California Science Center. 200 guests, classmates, friends, teachers. Planetarium show. Interactive exhibits. A cake designed like the solar system with sparklers for stars. Thorne arrived alone. Brought a gift. A book about space exploration. Carefully chosen. Wrapped by hand. Beckett's face lit up. Thanks, Dad. This is so cool. Happy birthday, buddy. Landry approached. They stood awkwardly. Years of history between them. Love, betrayal, destruction, rebuilding. He's happy, Thorne said, watching Beckett show Ellis the book, both of them laughing about something. He is. You did that. Gave him stability when I couldn't. We both did. In different ways. Thorne looked at her, really looked, saw the strength in her posture, the confidence in her eyes, the life she'd built from ashes. I was wrong about everything, he said quietly. About you, about what mattered. I threw away something real for something fake, and I've spent every day since understanding what I lost. You lost yourself, Thorne. Not me. I was always going to be fine. You're the one who had to figure out who you wanted to be. I'm trying. The job at Mercy Heights. It's honest work. Important. I'm actually helping people. Good. Are you happy, Landry? She looked at Ellis helping Beckett adjust a telescope, looked at her son's pure joy, looked at the life she'd built with her own hands. Yeah, I really am. You deserve it. He said it like a confession, like absolution he didn't expect. So do you? Eventually. It wasn't forgiveness, not complete, maybe never complete, but it was release. The recognition that they'd both been broken people who'd shattered each other, and now they were rebuilding separately. That was enough. 1 year later, Landry stood at the World Economic Forum in Davos. She'd been invited to speak about disability innovation and corporate responsibility. The room held 3,000 people, heads of state, CEOs, changemakers. She wore midnight blue, walked without her cane. She rarely needed it anymore. Her recovery had been called miraculous by the medical journals that documented it. My grandmother told me that strength isn't never falling, she said to the assembly. It's rising when everyone bets you won't. For years ago, I fell, lost my ability to walk, lost my marriage, lost myself. The room was silent, but I had advantages many don't, resources, support, opportunities. And I realized not everyone gets that. So Kincaid International's mission is simple. We catch people when they fall, and we help them rise. She outlined initiatives. $12 billion committed to accessibility worldwide. Research funding for spinal cord regeneration. Universal design mandates for all Kincaid construction projects. Scholarship programs for disabled students. The applause was thunderous. But the real moment came after, during the press conference. A journalist asked, "Your ex-husband recently gave an interview saying you taught him what real strength looks like." Any response? Landry paused. She'd seen that interview. Thorne on a podcast, talking about his mistakes, owning them, explaining how his own cruelty had taught him what he'd taken for granted. "I hope he's become someone better," she said simply, "for his sake and for our sons. Everyone deserves a chance to grow from their worst moments." Did you plan your success as revenge? No. I plan my success as survival. If that looks like revenge to the people who counted me out, that says more about them than it does about me. Perfect answer. The clip went viral. That night, Back in her hotel, Ellis called. You were brilliant. You're biased. Completely, but also correct. He paused. I have a question. Okay. What would you say if I asked you to marry me? Her heart stopped, started, soared. I'd say ask me in person so I can say yes properly. I'm outside your door. She opened it. He was there, on one knee, holding a ring, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Landry Kincaid, you're the strongest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. Will you marry me? Yes, absolutely yes. 2 years later, the wedding was small, intimate, just family and close friends on a beach in Malibu. Beckett was ring bearer, taking his job very seriously. He walked Landry down the aisle, symbolic, beautiful, both of them crying happy tears. Ellis's vows made everyone weep. You taught me that strength isn't what you can lift, it's what you refuse to put down. You refuse to put down your dreams, your son, yourself, and I'm honored to spend my life being strong enough to deserve you. Thorne wasn't there, hadn't been invited, but he'd sent a gift, a letter for Beckett, to be open when he turned 18, explaining everything, owning his mistakes, expressing love. It was more than Landry expected, maybe more than Thorne had to give. At the reception, Landry stood with her grandmother's letter, still framed, still treasured. Build something so magnificent that he becomes a footnote. She'd done it. Thorne wasn't her villain anymore. He was barely a memory, just a chapter in her origin story. The antagonist who'd accidentally forged the hero. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations. Beckett showed me photos. You look beautiful. You deserve every happiness. T. She smiled, deleted it, not from anger, from freedom. Because the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so completely whole, so genuinely happy, so magnificently successful that your past can't even touch the future you've built. Landry Kincaid had fallen, and then she'd risen so high that falling became impossible. She looked at Ellis, at Beckett, at the life she'd built with her own scarred hands, and she understood Portia's final lesson. The people who abandon you when you're broken don't get to celebrate when you're whole. Your victory doesn't require their applause. It just requires your refusal to stay down. The end. So there it is. Landry went from wheelchair to wealth, from abandoned to unstoppable, from victim to victory. What's the lesson? Simple. The people who count you out don't get to count your wins. Your comeback doesn't need their permission, just your determination. If this story hit you right in the heart, if you've ever been underestimated and proved them wrong, drop a comment with your story. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over yet. And subscribe because we tell stories about real resilience, real revenge, and real redemption here. Remember, you're not broken. You're not finished. You're just getting started. The people who wrote you off, they're about to learn what happens when you write your own ending. Thank you for watching till the very end. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now go out there and become so extraordinary that your doubters become irrelevant. See you in the next story. Keep rising.